Morning, everybody. I'm Geraldine Baroni, City Manager, for those of you who may not know me. Welcome this afternoon. We have an exciting afternoon here for you today, a little presentation, and following we'll have a bit of a little celebration over in the Shady Oak Room, so stick around if you can. Carrie Spreeman, who's our Communications and Marketing Manager, is going to give actually a presentation to you today about something that we've been working on for some time under the direction of the City Council, who has pushed us in this direction to do more to market the community. As you might know, we're in a different world than we were 20-some years ago when our logo was last updated, and Carrie will talk about that. But also we're in a more competitive environment as well. And so we want more people to know about Minnetonka and what we're about for a variety of reasons. So we've had a group that's been working on this. Some of you maybe in this room have been involved in that process, and we're just real appreciative of the time and effort that's been put into it. And so I won't say any more. I'll let Carrie give a presentation and some background, and you'll learn a little bit more about this. So thank you.
All right, well, thanks everybody for coming. Like Geraldine said, we're really excited about finally being able to show you the new logo. We've been working on this, it was more than a year ago since we started the process of figuring out what consultant we wanted to hire to help with the project. And it was in January that we actually began. So this has been a long journey. And I have to give a shout out to Matt and Jesse. They have been working their tails off along with a bunch of other people to try to get this ready. So we're excited to finally be able to show it to you. I am just going to quickly talk about some of the reasons why we did the project, and then go through the process that we went through, and then we'll finally get to show you the updated look, and then I'll talk about some things to expect as we roll it out and our launch timeline and all that kind of stuff. Two major reasons why we did the project, and one of them kind of alludes to what Geraldine was saying. It's been more than 20 years since the city updated its logo or looked at its branding guidelines, and a lot has changed. It was in the mid-90s when we last did this, and if you can tell from our materials that our materials look like they were developed in the mid-90s. So it was time to take a look at that. One of the big reasons why we need to do this, because of the fact the logo was designed in the 90s, it was designed at a time when the main way that we were communicating with residents was through print communications. And now, of course, in addition to print, we're also using all of our digital tools like the website and social media, et cetera, et cetera. But because our current logo was designed before digital communications really existed, it's really hard. The logo is actually very hard for us to use well on our digital platforms. So one of the reasons of doing this is to make sure that we end up with a logo that's easier for us to use. It'll make us more efficient in our jobs, and also will help us be more consistent with the way we're presenting the city. So that's the second part, a big part of the project, and I'll talk more about this as I get going, but is to develop guidelines for use. So we'll come up with a whole brand manual that will be the foundation basically for all of our communication materials going forward. So this pyramid kind of shows why consistency is so important to our ability to communicate well. If we think about the city's strategic goals as kind of the foundation of what we're doing here, we build the branding guidelines off of those strategic goals to basically give us the tools that we need to tell the story of the goals, to communicate about those. Then if we have good branding guidelines in place, and the branding guidelines will include things like key messages, colors, fonts, logos, basically to help us tell that story of what those strategic goals are. Anytime then we go to develop a postcard, or we write an article for the memo, or we put something on the website, or we do an interview, we can draw off the branding guidelines, and that way we're always being consistent with the messages that we're sharing. And over time, the more consistent you are, the more you're going to be able to increase awareness about whatever message it is that you're trying to spread. So that's really kind of the main reason. If we think about like one of the city's strategic goals being the fact that we want to preserve and enhance the natural environment, that's a good one. We know that nature is a big part of the city's identity. When we go to develop guidelines, we pick colors, fonts that kind of tell the story that the city cares about nature, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just an example. Geraldine mentioned that we had several employees that formed a project team. That they were kind of a sounding board for us throughout the project. We met with them 3 times throughout the project, so thank you. Hats off to everybody on that team. They, of course, have seen the logo and given us a bunch of feedback and provided feedback all along the way, so it was really helpful. We went through 3 phases with the project. Of course, we started with a bunch of research, and then we moved into talking about those key messages and identifying words that we thought described the city's personality, and then we moved into looking at the logo. The research phase, we looked at a bunch of the existing research. We wanted to know what residents think about Minnetonka, but because we have so much data from our annual community surveys that we do, we looked at the results of the last 5 years of those surveys. We also looked at housing preferences and perception study that the city did. The Community Development Department headed that up in 2014, got a lot of good information from that. Of course, the Imagine Minnetonka process that we did last year, got a lot of feedback from residents there. We looked at our competitors, so the cities that we sort of vie for residents, our surrounding cities, Plymouth, Edina, Eden Prairie, St. Louis Park, looked at how they communicate, what they're doing, how does that compare to what we're doing, et cetera. And then we conducted a bunch of new research. Our consultant interviewed business leaders in the community, and then someone from each of the 3 school districts to get their feedback. And then, of course, that project team that I noted on the previous slide, they were all interviewed as well, and then all 7 of the city council members. So we got a lot of research. So from the research, we came up with the themes from the research, and we came up with these words that we feel like describe, these are words that we feel like describe of the city of Minnetonka. So the words on the left, there's the 5 main themes there. Those are what we feel like that's the personality. Minnetonka is confident, not boastful, we're forward thinking, we're welcoming, innovative, all those things. The words on the right, those we identified as words to describe how we want our materials to look. So we want our communications to be strong, simple, symbolic, not literal, and that'll make sense in a second. So here we are. So once, well, first we have to start with our current logo. So once we got through the words part, and we looked at the personality, we go, okay, so then we have to look at our current logo and ask ourselves, does this logo make sense? Is it innovative? Is it forward-thinking? Is it, et cetera, et cetera? The answer was no, so that's when we came to the fact that we needed to refresh our logo. So if I could get a quick drum roll. Here's what we're, thank you. Here's what we're proposing. Oh, nice, that was a nice sound. Okay. That's good. Okay, so it looks like it's very simple in that we perhaps created this in a day. In fact, the truth is this took us months to do. We went through tons of different concepts, and then we finally landed on this one, and there was lots of reasons why, and I'll talk about those in a second, but we came up with this concept, and then once we got to this concept, we spent probably another at least 6 weeks refining this. So this version, you're probably seeing like the 45th version of this concept. So it's been through the ringer. We were very conscious about all the different elements that you see, so I'm just going to talk about kind of our reasoning behind each of them. The mark itself, the small m, that's a tribute to our current logo. I don't know if you've noticed, but the current logo is in all lower caps. And that was very conscious when it was designed, because the city does have that sort of understated personality, that whole confident, not boastful. We don't want to be too in your face. That's not Minnetonka. But because we do want to have a stronger voice in the community, we wanted to state that understatedness a little bit more boldly. Yeah, it's been a complicated process. So we thought using the small m as the main mark was a way to tribute the old logo, but also confidently own it. Carrying the cattails forward, of course, is an obvious nod to the current logo as well. Cattails are a great symbol for Minnetonka. They're everywhere in the city. They literally exist where land meets water that is Minnetonka. Minnetonka's woods and wetlands, nature is a huge part of our identity. Felt like it was important to keep the cattails. So that's why we ended up there. The fact that the cattails are kind of tucked inside the M could even be looked at as, the city, like I said earlier, one of our main goals is to protect and preserve or enhance the natural environment. I mean, you can even look at it as the M is sort of protecting the cattails. Yeah, fancy, totally. I see a lot of thought went into this. The fact there's 2 cattails, we worked on the design of this cattail for, 2 months. It was horrible. But we ended up with 2 cattails. We felt like this really gives a nice balanced approach, and that's very Minnetonka. I mean, the city always takes a balanced approach to things. We're constantly trying to walk that line between being a rural city and a big city and a conservative city and progressive city. I mean, we're always trying to go right in the middle and please everybody. So we feel like the cattails balancing each other out kind of symbolizes that. Also, one leaning back can be seen as a tribute to the history, and one leaning forward is that whole forward-thinking thing. So also, a lot of symbolism. The color, we tried a bunch of different colors. We ended up on the blue-gray color scheme because, of course, blue is the color that's found in nature, but we felt like the blue-gray color scheme kind of pays tribute to the fact that there's more to Minnetonka than just nature. It gives the logo sort of a sophisticated feel, and we felt like that was important because we are such a big city with major businesses here. There's more to Minnetonka, of course, than just our nature. So that was our thought there. And then the font, we wanted to pick something, of course, that was easy to read and strong and simple, but also something that had some character, because the city does have a lot of character. So that was why we went with that tall M&A at the end, because we thought it looked nice and made it kind of interesting. So one of the great things, like I said at the beginning of the project, one of the main reasons for doing this is because we need a logo that's easy to use, and it will make it easier for us to do our jobs. And this one we have designed in multiple kind of different ways that will give us the ability to use it in different formats. We know that we need to have a logo that's going to look good on vehicles and in print and on the website and social media and water towers. There's a million different places this thing has to go. So the brand manual will outline guidelines for using all these different versions. So if we have a small area where we can't fit the words, we can use just the M, et cetera, et cetera. Also, this logo is going to be really easy to use in one color, and that's something we can't do with our current logo because the way the cattails in the current logo sit behind the words, if you reverse it out, the words and the cattails all get jumbled together, and it doesn't look good. So this one, we're not going to have that problem. It looks just as good in one color as it does in full color, so that was important. We also have developed some logos for our sub-brands or some of our major programs. So these 3 all happen to be in recreation, but Senior Services, Ice Arena, and Williston, they each have their own community that they interact with, kind of separate from the city. But they're really important parts of the city's services. So right now, someone could walk into Williston. Williston has almost 9,000 members. Right now, you could walk into Williston and really not really have any idea that you're at a city facility. And that's kind of a missed opportunity for us because we want residents to know that this is a facility the city runs. This is an amenity that the city's providing to you. So branding these different programs to the city, tying us all together, will make it easier for us because things will be more consistent, but also will help tell that story that look, we've got all these great things that we're offering to residents. So here's a sneak peek at what our new business cards are going to look like. And these will be available when we launch in December, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think they're going to be pretty fun, kind of cool. Here's what the new letterhead is going to look like. So again, just clean and easy. Like I said, a big part of the project is developing a brand manual, which will give us all the tools, especially Jesse, Matt, and I, give us some guidelines to draw from when we're creating new communications pieces. But the brand manual is going to include guidelines for how to use the logos, all the different versions. We're also going to develop PowerPoint templates and email signatures for all employees, again, just to make everybody's job easier. Next time you have to go develop a PowerPoint presentation, you can go choose from one of a few, and make that way you don't have to, like recreate the wheel every single time you go to do something. It's hard. Also going to have a writing guide in the brand manual with things that, words that we use on a regular basis that sometimes it's hard to know whether or not, they need a period or there should be capitalized or whatever. So like one of the examples is City of Minnetonka, should the C be capitalized and when? That kind of stuff will be in the writing guide. So here's the launch timeline. We, next Monday, are bringing it to the council at the public council meeting. The council has already seen the logo and offered feedback, but this will be their official blessing for us to move forward. So as long as they give us that blessing next Monday, we'll roll the brand manual, make that available via Insight the week of November 27th. And then on Tuesday, December 5th is when we'll actually start rolling the logo out and start using it everywhere. So you'll start seeing it appear as of December 5th. And speaking of it appearing, we are going to approach it. Obviously, it's going to be a major project to update everything. And in order to be responsible with the city's resources, we're going to approach it in phases. So each phase, starting December 5th, the stuff in the gray, that's the stuff that we're going to have updated with the launch. So our digital platforms, those won't cost anything to update. So website, social media, our mass email templates, those all get updated right away. Those are very visible. We're also going to update our letterhead, business cards, and envelopes, because those are kind of the premier business collateral that we use. We have been holding off on reordering new stock, so we're kind of dwindling our stock there, again, to just save money and be responsible. Then in the first quarter of 2018, we'll be focusing on redesigning all the stuff that we have to design anyway. So the Minnetonka memo, that gets designed every single month. So as of the February 2018 issue, it'll have the new look. We have the new logo and the new look. And we'll start then methodically going through all the different materials that we use. So the spring-summer recreation brochure will have the new look to it. Any street engineering project updates that get sent out in March, when we have to go write those the next time, we'll put the new logo on it. We've got a whole plan. It's going to be a process. Throughout 2018, we are going to work with Public Works on the vehicles and city boundary signs, trail signs. That's going to take longer. This stuff isn't going to happen instantly. It's going to happen sort of over the course of a while. And then big items like water towers, those will be done as needed just because it's so expensive. And again, we just want to be responsible. So like a water tower, if it's not due for being repainted for 5 years, that's when we'll update the logo. So that's how that's going to work. Employee apparel, we wanted to quickly talk about that. Obviously, there's even a lot of people here now that have the logo on their shirts. We are going to, of course, anytime from now on, anytime we make new orders, we'll want to put the new logo on there. But we also, with the rollout in December, we're going to give each non-uniformed employee a $50 voucher that will allow each person to go to an online store that we're in the process of creating, and you'll have the chance to use your voucher to pick out 1 or 5 or 10 or whatever you want to do, however many items you want to order with the new logo on it. If you want to spend more than $50, you can. You just have to use your own credit card for anything above $50. So that'll make it easy. I mean, that way employees can decide what items you want, and also you won't have to worry about logo setups because we will have dealt with that already. So hopefully that'll make that easier. And our hope is that by the end of 2018, all of the old logoed apparel, not including uniforms, those are different, but all the logoed apparel will be transitioned with the new logo. So as of 2019, we want everybody to be wearing the new logo on their shirt. So that too, like I said, is just it's gonna be a process. We don't expect this stuff to happen instantly. And because of all the work that we have ahead of us, we have created a work order system. It's just a fillable PDF, but that's available on Insight. We'll be asking if, as you find things that need to be updated, we'll be asking you to fill out a work order form, and that way we can track it a little bit better and put it into our spreadsheet. And obviously we'll need time to fit it into the schedule and all of that. So we'll be communicating more details about that later. And of course, we'll make the logo files available to everybody on Insight as well, the JPEGs and all of that. So make it easier for people. Oh, and I did just want to touch on, obviously this will be a process when we're ordering new stuff, like the new letterhead and envelopes, communications will handle that. But otherwise, from there on out, we'll just follow the same ordering procedures that you typically do for all of your stuff. But as the stuff comes up, of course, feel free to reach out to Matt or Jesse and I if you have questions about who's doing what. So, and then my only other thing was just remember that it's not out there yet. It won't, as of next Monday, it'll be out there, but for the next week, just keep it under wraps. So that is what I have for you. Yeah.